Broadcasting live from the Wellness Wonderland, you're listening to the Wellness Wonderland Radio. I'm Katie, and each week I chat with the most inspirational people on the planet on how to stay inspired in all areas of life. As you listen, feel free to tweet at me at Katie Dalebout or use the hashtag Wellness Wonderland. I'd love to hear your aha moments. So grab your headphones and listen on the go, or cuddle up with a notebook as we dive in deep with authentic conversations right here in Wonderland. Hello, Wonders. Welcome back for another week of the show. I'm so excited about this week's Part 2 episode of the Caroline Dooner episode. She is one of my favorite people ever, and like I said, we talked for almost 4 hours, I think, and so I had to cut the episode into 2 parts. So the first part already aired a couple weeks ago. Go back and listen to that if you haven't already. And this is part 2 of that conversation, where we get into a lot more stuff about everything from dieting and recovering from dieting and creativity and more of the stuff that she does creatively. So it's a great part of the conversation. As I always think, the conversation gets richer and juicier the longer you conversate, the longer you talk. So I'm not going to say this part is better than the first part, but yeah, it's better than the first part because we've gotten to know each other more. So you'll like this episode a lot. Now, one thing to note, that Caroline's actually putting on a program called the Life Recovery Program, and the doors are open for it now. It's the 6-month course that's really fantastic. If you did her free 10-day mini course, it's like that on steroids. So follow the link in the show notes if you want to sign up for that. The price is there, everything is there, all the information you need is there in the show notes. So go to the show notes, make sure you use that link, and it will take you to the Fuck It Diet's free 10-day course, and then you'll sign up there and get information on the Life Recovery Program. So I hope you sign up. I hope you check it out. I've done it. I love Caroline, and I think the world of her. So anyway, I'm really working so hard to not say anyways, but it just slips out. And an amazing listener, thank you so much, whoever you are, gave me that amazing feedback that I say that word way too often. I didn't even realize that I did it, and it's not a word. It's anyway, 2 words. So I'm going to try not to do that, but it's just a transition word that I use in my mind, and I'm really trying to not use it anymore. So if you catch me using it, I'm really sorry. But I'm aware of it, and I'm trying to change it, as well as the likes and the ums, but they might just come out, and that's me being real with you, just like when I'm talking on the phone with a friend, I say anyways and like and so hopefully you can bear with me, and this show isn't meant to sound super professional, although who knows, maybe someday it will be, but today it's just me as I am today, and I'm not super professional and polished, I'm just me. So I hope you like this episode with Caroline, and have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you soon. Oh my gosh, okay, this conversation has been amazing. I haven't even asked you any of the questions that I was going to ask, but you covered like most of them, so it's okay. But there's a couple of things I want to tease out from what you said, and kind of get back to your story a little bit. So in high school, you were restrictive dieting, and then
Yes.
that continued. And then when was there like that breaking point when you hit the bottom? Like, I really would love to hear about that moment when you were like, all right, I can't do this anymore. And you like immersed yourself in this. And then I would love to really hear more about that recalibration period when you were healing your metabolism and allowing yourself to gain weight and eat intuitively and not knowing, where that would lead. And
Right.
when you said you had those bad days, like what would you do on those bad days? Because I know for me, like when I have those bad days, I immediately, like my brain goes to, should I go back to my old ways? And now I'm at a place where like, if that happens, I can coach myself out of it. It just takes me a minute. I'm like, okay, no, remember what you were like then. You're so much cooler now. And I just like do the little thing, and I like go back and I don't do it. But like for a long time, I would like try to be on that intuitive eating train, heal my metabolism and period and body and all of it. But then I wouldn't like allow myself to get to that place, and so I would like go back. So yeah, so take us through all of that. That was a lot, but
no, totally. It's great. I have like a map right now in my mind of where we're gonna go.
Okay, good.
So
Take us there.
I was a raw vegan in college. I was a vegetarian. I would have bouts of being like, hey, I think I'm a little crazy about this. I'm going to do intuitive eating. So I would like do an intuitive eating one year. And by intuitive eating, I mean like obsessively try to eat like what my body wanted in this like kind of psychotic and really weird way where like it was so important that I eat like exactly what I needed and exactly how much I was hungry for and like stop like I would get so mad at myself if I like couldn't tell if I was full or not.
What our friend Isabel calls the hunger and fullness diet, right?
Yes, the hunger and fullness diet. So I would do the hunger and fullness diet, like still wanting to be skinny, still hoping that that was going to be the way that I'd be skinny and healthy. And then I did like the French women don't get fat version of the hunger and fullness diet. And then I would kind of like cycle through, you know, bouts of that. And then when I was 23, I I thought that I had like healed myself with this intuitive, like I thought that I had healed my weight stuff, but I hadn't because I was still obsessed with being skinny. So I was like, felt pretty stable, like eating crazy, small, weird amounts of food and like drinking wine every night and like drinking so much coffee. This was like my French diet that I thought was like, amazing. And then I heard about the paleo diet and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go on the paleo diet. And I even knew that I was easily obsessed with diets. And I was like, I'm not going to get obsessed with it. I'm just going to try it out. I'm just going to see if it heals my hormones. Cause I had, like really weird periods and like really, just like really erratic. And I barely got my period actually for like years at a time. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try to heal my hormones on the paleo diet. If it doesn't work, no big deal. Like I'll go back to my regular, what I'm doing right now, but I'm just going to try it out. And of course, like 2 days in, I was like sucked into the rabbit hole and I went just as obsessive over this as I had been over being a raw vegan, which is like on the message boards all the time and like writing about what I'm eating, like writing about whether my skin's breaking out and like just being so obsessed with the specifics. It's a complete orthorexia, just so obsessed with the purity of what I'm putting into my body. And then when that didn't work or when I like would basically I was trying to like not want to eat food. I thought that if I was on the perfect diet, I would not crave food. That was like the end goal for me. I thought that that was what was going to happen. And like not care about food and just like eat avocados and lamb and kimchi and like be someone who ate perfectly and didn't care about food and had no more cravings.
And was skinny.
And was skinny and like perfectly healthy and like nothing ever went wrong ever in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I started like binging a lot. Like I was being paleo and I was binging so much on like the treat foods, like almond flour and like all of these treats that I would like make for myself. And I like nuts were like my like vice on these diets. Yeah, it was like I would eat so many of them and feel so sick and feel so guilty and then like try to be perfect and like not eat any nuts the next day. So I'm like doing this within the rules of the diet. And it was my 24th birthday. I had been paleo for maybe like 5 months, but like obsessed. And I was like doing the GAPS version of it, which is like this like you try to like heal all of the, gut issues. And like I ate only broths for like a week. And then I was like trying to add things in and I like wasn't doing it right. And I was so mad at myself for not doing it right. I'm basically eating nothing, obsessed with the fact that this is going to heal my hormones. And so again, for me, like I was able to tell myself it wasn't about weight. I was able to tell myself that it was about health, and it was about health. I really did want to, but it was so much about weight. Yeah. So finally, it was my 24th birthday. I binged on squash pancakes that I made for myself. Like I felt so ill. I ate all of these almond flour cupcakes that I had made that were horrible, that were like low sugar and like nobody wanted to eat them and I
That
ate them.
is so that I heard you tell that story on another podcast and I was laughing so hard. Sorry to interrupt, but I just have to
Uh,
interject this because I can relate so much because I had a similar experience in college where I was on, whatever the diet I was on. I think it was like of the raw vegan variety, but like very much candida also. So like I couldn't eat fruit and sugar, but I was also so basically nothing. And I was like tweeting at the person who wrote the book that I happened to be following. Hey, it's my birthday. What can I make that's like low
uh-huh.
something? And anyway, so I like I get some recipe, but then I'm like trying to make this like uber healthy recipe more healthy even. So like it might have called for like a teeny tiny bit of maple syrup or whatever it was, and I was like,
Right.
well, move that, I'll remove that, I'll do
Yes,
half of that, and
exactly.
so then it's like,
Exactly.
bleh. But yeah,
It's
so
so
I can
bad.
so relate. It's like
I
when you
know, like
don't follow an already kind of gross recipe, it's gonna
exactly.
be really
Even
bad.
more
Yeah,
gross. Yeah,
totally.
no icing on it. Yeah, I would try to like cut the sugar out of like every
Yeah,
single thing that I was making, and it always ended up terribly, obviously.
yeah.
Yes. Oh, I know you were listening to my friend Ben interviewed me,
It
right?
was so great. Yeah. I'm a
Yeah. Oh, that
total
was fun.
stalker fangirl, but
That
yeah,
was
I
funny
loved
because
it.
that was from the other side. Like that was me telling like his followers that are like actors this
Yeah.
story. It's funny to like see how the conversation becomes different depending on what angle I feel like I'm coming into
Right.
it. Um,
Which is probably fascinating for them because I'm sure this is really relevant and prevalent in that
oh
community and
yeah, it
it'll probably,
really
I'm
is.
sure
It's
we'll get to that.
everywhere.
In every community, yeah, but I'm
Yeah, in
sure
every
in that.
community, but for again, for actors, it's this like, well, we have to be. We
Right.
have to look good. We
For
have to
sure.
lose weight. We have to
Yeah.
be healthy. And it's like, oh my God. It's just like becomes this life view. This like it becomes it gets back to being this um a moral journey. Like
Yeah.
I'm a better person if I can, I'm
Attaching
responsible.
morality to it. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, which is so dangerous.
Well, and the interesting thing about that within the acting community is that if that stigma wasn't there, perhaps there would be more parts,
I know.
and then perhaps media would change, and then when people consume media, there would be more things, more body shapes represented, and then we would feel. So it's just like
Exactly.
this, like
It's feeding
positive
itself.
feedback loop.
That's
Yeah.
exactly. I'll actually get there. Because I had like a weird, well, I realized first of all, I had like a spiritual moment, like in the bathroom, looking at myself in the mirror after like being filled with all of this food that I didn't even want, like gross versions of food that I didn't even want, but I binged on anyway.
Hmm.
And I truly, I believe I said out loud, like, you are crazy. Like you've gone crazy. And I like saw my entire diet history in like 1 second, and I was like, this is never going to work. Like you are doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And you're searching for this like approval of yourself that you're never going to get. And like all of this happened in like a second. It was like truly I had like a new understanding of myself in the world and weight and diets. And I decided that day, I was like, I'm going to stop dieting. I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to quit acting. I'm going to learn to like myself as I am. I'm going to like live my life now. I'm going to figure out what I've been running away from, like what I've been not thinking is good enough. And like, I'm going to do this. And then I believe it took time to put into practice. Like, I think I tried immediately, but I was like, well, I'm going to eat whatever I want, but I'm going to still be gluten free, obviously, because gluten's the worst. And so it really did take me time to like add everything back in, but I was determined to get over all of my diet stuff. And the thing is that I'd been doing this intuitive eating, and I put that in quotes again, for years. Like for like 4 years before that, I'd been trying to do intuitive eating. So I realized in that moment that I had still been obsessed with being skinny all those
Yeah.
times, and that was my problem. I was waiting for this time when I was going to be good enough, and it had never happened, and it would never happen. And
Yeah, I think intuitive eating doesn't work if you're trying to control your weight.
exactly, because it's not intuitive eating, then it's exactly what Isabel says. It's the hunger fullness diet,
Exactly, yeah.
and under the guise of being intuitive eating. So what I did after that was I very slowly started eating more and more foods that I was so afraid of. And I had every intention, I had this intuitive sense that the more food I ate and allowed myself to eat, the more normal with food I would become. And I just knew it. I wasn't even really reading Matt Stone. In fact, maybe I had read one article of Matt Stone's. Do you know who that is?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was because I followed this woman named Cheese Slave on online, and she used to write about food and cheese, but then she became obsessed with the paleo diet and wrote all about the paleo diet, which is why I followed her. But then she was kind of having a swing back and realized that she needed to be eating more carbs because I was so afraid of carbs. She needed to be eating more carbs in order to heal her hormones. And I think that really perked me. Like I think that the idea too, fortunately or unfortunately, the idea that I was actually screwing myself over and I was messing up my health even more by being obsessed with diets was the thing that kind of got my interest in the first place.
Mm.
So I think I'm realizing this right now. I think I read her stuff about how she was reading Matt Stone at 180 Degree Health and how he had been on all these crazy diets and it ruined his health and it ruined his metabolism and it ruins people's hormones. And when I read that, I think that was
It can kind of scare you into like,
I think that was like a big wake up call. Like,
yeah,
oh
me too.
my God, I have been deluding myself into thinking that I'm being healthy and caring about myself. And really, I've been searching skinny at the cost of my health and not even knowing I was doing it. And I think with that came, I think then my epiphany about wanting to gain weight came from that. I think I kind of realized that my obsession with weight was ruining my health even more. And that is what inspired that. So I, I was committed to allowing myself to gain weight. And I think because of that, I had this intuitive sense that if I could just let myself eat as much as I wanted, heal my metabolism, heal my fear of foods, that I would find some equilibrium and that I would be free. And I believed that I would probably have to be a higher weight in order to do that. And I decided that it was worth it.
Mm.
And at the same time, I was like, I am going to quit acting because doing this auditioning thing that I was so hard on myself with auditioning. I was like, it was all super, super connected. And I felt like auditioning was, I felt like I wasn't doing well because I wasn't skinny enough. That was my constant belief always throughout any acting audition that I did or any job that I got. Even the jobs I got, I was like, well, I got this because I'm skinny, I guess. And I just tied it all together. I thought it was so, so, so connected. And in ways it is, and also in ways it's totally not. Like it was really all happening in my mind. I thought I was like so much fatter than I was, a month before, and I'd gained 5 pounds and nobody else noticed. And I thought it was like the apocalypse.
Yeah, it's fascinating because like I'm not in that industry, but I too associated everything with that. And even, I was in theater in like school, and same thing. It was like, oh, I'm not the lead in the play because, she's
Right.
pretty or skinny or whatever,
Right.
whatever, whatever. And
And it's amazing.
every time I did get something, it was like, oh, it was because I was skinny then. But
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
realized that if I did get something because I was when I was like at that low weight, the only reason that I got it, I think, doesn't have to do with my weight. Of course there's some privilege and whatever, whatever. But
Sure.
I think I had more confidence then.
I know.
And so it was
It's
the
that is
confidence I had then.
all it is. That is what it is. And so we're able to experience that and assume that it's the weight.
Yeah.
And it just strengthens that belief that weight is our worth and that people love us more when we're thinner. And it's just tragic because all it was the confidence. All it was the confidence. And kind of putting that into action, so I was working on that. I started looking at all these body positive blogs, and I started,
How did you know to do that? Like, how do you just intuitively knew?
how did I know to do that? I think I started reading Dances with Fat, and I don't know how I knew
Oh
to do
yeah,
that
Reagan
either.
Chastain. She's
Yes,
so cool.
she's amazing. She is so articulate. She is so articulate
I'm
in this
having her
way
on the
that,
pod too.
oh, good, good, good. She is wonderful. Um, I think that was like, I feel like somebody linked to her. I think through reading Matt Stone, he had an epiphany about his obsession with becoming lean and his obsession. He was orthorexic as well. And he had an epiphany. And I think he had sort of become a fat activist himself. And he might have linked to one thing that then led to a rabbit hole for me. And
Okay,
I just
sweet.
sort of like, it opened up my world.
Thank goodness the internet exists.
Oh my
Because I don't know
God.
what I would be right now. I really
Oh,
don't
that's
even
so
know.
true. Actually, because it fed so much of my crazy health stuff,
That's
but it
true. Yeah.
also helped me heal for real.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have done this complete of a healing without the resources on the
Yeah.
internet. I
At the
totally,
same time, though, maybe you wouldn't have gone into it so much because
it's
to
true.
get to the orthorexia, you would have had to like be in the library all day,
It's true. But then
So
I would have done what my mom did,
right, you would
which
have found a way.
was have this like mild obsession my whole life,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, you asking me like what my bad days were like,
Yes.
they
I
were
really want
like
to know about that.
me like taking a lot of pictures of myself and like taking videos of myself and looking at myself. And this is truly what happened. I would look at myself and be like, oh my God, like I'm not, I don't, I realized that I had body dysmorphic disorder. Like I don't even look the way I think I look. Like I actually looked smaller than I thought I did. I would like decide to eat, eat a lot for like a week. And then I'd be like, I guess I gained weight. And I was choosing to gain weight, but I was still petrified about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would like want to know how much weight I had gained and like what I looked like. And I would take all these pictures of myself. This was nuts. This was me still in a very,
Because you
very,
weren't weighing yourself on the scale. Your
no, I
only
wasn't weighing
measurement
myself.
was
Yeah,
like how
yes,
your clothes fit and stuff.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and I like bought some bigger clothes and I was taking the steps that I needed to take towards self-acceptance, but I was petrified. I was just like, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I was going to do. I knew my intentions, but I was so scared and I just wanted to see myself from the outside and I wanted to change the way I saw myself from the outside. So like I would take a picture of myself or take a video of myself on my computer and I think have the desire to be like I'm going to look at this from the viewpoint of somebody of me looking at these plus size models and these fat activists and I was like I'm going to change the way I look at myself. And that was part of what I was trying to do. The other part was like, I wonder what I look like right now. Like, I wonder how much weight I've gained because I've been eating so much. And it's good that I've been eating so much because I need to heal all these things and I need to gain weight. But I'm so, worried about what I do look like and blah, blah, blah. So it was like all wrapped up. I had good intentions and I was moving in the right direction, but I was still super freaked out about it.
Yeah.
And I would look at these pictures of myself or these videos and I'd be like, oh my God, I don't even know what I think I'm seeing right now. Like, and that would solidify how warped I was too, and how warped my view of myself was. And I knew that my view of myself in terms of whether I'd gained weight or not was warped. But even the fact that I thought I was like ballooning up and like wanting to be okay with it, but barely even ballooning up at the time was eye opening for me. How much of it was mental.
Yeah. Eh,
And I was gaining weight. Like I was wearing bigger clothes, but I just was so petrified of what it looked like from the outside and nobody cares.
Yeah, the interesting thing too is probably you were like I think that whatever we are judging on other people is actually what we internalize and judge on ourselves. So it sounds like since you were doing so much body image work on loving on these plus size models and seeing them as beautiful, it became easier for you to find that beauty in yourself
You
and
know
then
what?
therefore judge yourself less.
That sounds really spot on, actually, because every time I'm working with someone and they say, we talk about whether they're really being judged by people, they're like, well, I do judge people. I know that people judge people. I know that people talk about weight. Those people are the people like us when we had eating disorders. People with body image stuff are the people who are looking at weight.
Yeah.
So every time you're worried that you're being judged by people, you might be actually, but you're being judged by people who have weight issues themselves. And again, like you just said, it's really about them
Mm-hmm.
and not about you. We're judging in other people what we're judging in ourselves, and we're judging in ourselves like, it's all it becomes the same thing. But once kind of like going the other way, as you just said, if I was able to see these other women as beautiful, and I really did, I was so empowered by them, so amazed at their confidence. It was their confidence that was so exciting. I wanted that. I wanted that so badly. And I was like, if I could just have, an ounce of that, I would be a different person. And that really was the thing. So that, and then the idea of being a rebel, the
Mm-hmm.
idea of going against the grain, going against what people like, the idea of not being liked or being judged and not caring was what was so exciting to me about these fat activists and these plus size models, that they were going against the grain. There were people who were writing nasty comments about them online, and they did it anyway. That was so cool to me.
Yeah. And it's counterculture. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, and I think it's interesting. Like, I think we don't really have much of a counterculture anymore because the internet makes everything basically mainstream. And I think if mainstream culture can get better, there's not really a need for the counterculture. So, like, when there's something that is kind of counterculture and the only thing really left is like this body positivity, fat
Mhm.
activism thing is kind of it's one of the few counterculture things out there
You're so
because,
right.
yeah, because now everything is kind of fair game with the internet. So, um, yeah, I don't know. It's just an
That's
interesting way to
amazing,
look at
actually.
it.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. And the fact that liking yourself the way you are is such a radical act
Yeah.
is so tragic. It's tragic, but it's also really, really, really cool that an act of rebellion can be just to like yourself.
Yeah.
Like, and it's that simple. And I think people get so afraid that if they like themselves, that no one else will.
Mm,
It's like if I like myself this way, like I guess that's great, but like what if nobody else does?
yeah.
And the the true answer is that people will, and people also won't. Um
Exactly.
people will judge you for any number of things
And
that
we
are
just can't
completely out of
control
your
it.
control.
Yeah.
I know. And if you can be a beacon of self-love and self-acceptance and be an example just to one young girl, you are changing the world for the better in this amazing, amazing, radical way that is so simple at the same time and so hard to do.
Preach. Yeah.
I know. It's like it's still so underground. Like I work in this field all the time and I am reading, blog posts and books that are on this subject all the time and it feels like it's becoming more mainstream, but it's not. Like
No.
we're still underground. This is
Yeah.
still complete news to people that there is
Yeah.
that there is even a prejudice against fat people. They'll be like, no, we're not. We just want
Right.
everyone to be happy. Like, it's just, it's like, we want everyone to be healthy. And like, people don't even know what's happening in the first place to know that there's even a rebellion against it. It's really crazy.
And that's where struggle the most. Like that's where I have such a hard time because having this conversation and being here with you and like where I like hang out online, like my Instagram feed is like so great. It's like you're amazing, funny,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
models wanting more, which we'll get
Oh,
to, and body positive people and like my friends, and it's so supportive and great. But like I forget and I go out in the world and I'll be at a cafe, this happened to me today, with these girls logging their calories in MyFitnessPal and like talking
yeah.
about how much they hate themselves, and then I'm like, wow, they must look at me and really be like, what. And it's like, and it
Right.
gets me for a minute, like,
Yeah.
well, this is the world I live in, maybe I should just go back and this is the world I live in. And
Right.
like for me in my lifetime, this isn't going to change, so should I just conform?
Right.
Like
Right.
it's a question in my mind, but I'm
And
taking a stance and not
yeah.
doing it. But I still question it. Like it's not something that I'm just like always 100% like great with all the time. I question it all the time,
I
and
think your honesty with that is super refreshing too, because there are people who need to hear that who will really resonate with you. There are people who don't resonate with me now. So I was definitely floundering for a while, but I've gotten to a place where I, and the body that I'm in right now is thin, but I still wouldn't have accepted it, 4 years ago. I would have been like, oh man, like nothing was ever good enough then. So it wouldn't have mattered. I would have found a million problems with me right now. I'm like squeezing my stretch marks right now and like seeing cellulite, and I would have like freaked out. um, but the fact that you're saying that is really refreshing because I will say like, no, like I really do feel different and I never would go back now. And it's good to know, I think, for people that where I am exists and that where you are exists too, and you could still make a choice.
yeah.
You're still making a choice and you struggle with it from time to time. And that is so human and so good for people to hear, I think.
Yeah, and
But
I think it's good for me to hear that like I can it's inspiring to me. That's why you're so inspiring to me to see, that place does exist. But I think, like you said, it's almost unspoken, and there's this like in this community that we're kind of running in, like it's unspoken, and there's almost like shame and fear of not presenting myself 100% intuitive or body positive all the time. And
right,
like
right,
I think that
totally.
it should be talked about to know that like yeah, it happens.
Yeah, and like, the beauty thing is on so many levels. I definitely you like have to catch myself like certain things that I think about like makeup and clothes and hair and I really am constantly trying to balance because the funny thing is that my mom, she's always playing devil's advocate and she's very happy that I'm happier now. But she, during the time that I was in the beginning of the fuck it diet, she was like, well, you just are so extreme. Like everything you do is, you know, you now like now even wanting to look nice is a crime. And I'm like, oh God. understand that this is my therapy. Like I need to not care what I look like right now
Right.
in order to heal. There is a happy medium. There's a happy medium in like caring about how you present yourself because the way you present yourself, you know, it does affect things. It doesn't affect your worth, but it affects the way people perceive you. And it can be a tool and it can also be a way to express yourself. But that is the healthy way to use appearance. And the unhealthy way is linking it to all these things that it doesn't need to be linked to. And a therapy for me was to actively not care what I looked like while I was still obviously caring. I mean, you can't erase that part of your brain, but you can choose to value other parts of your life and to remain extremely conscious and aware of all of the times your brain goes to that self-judgmental place and the place of like, well, will they like me if I look like this? Will it be enough if I look like this? What will they think if I look like this? It happens all the time. I mean, not to me so much anymore. It happens in different ways now, and it's like a new level of self-awareness, I guess. But that would happen all the time, and I would have to consciously choose, no, I do not want that to be what rules my life. I do not want that. I know why I think that way. I understand. I get how the world works, but I do not want that to rule my life because it made me miserable for too long.
Mm. Yeah.
And it was a conscious choice, like every day for a while.
So when you were in that spot where you were, recalibrating your body and fixing your metabolism and all of that, were you legalizing all foods, or do you think it was like the amount of food that made the big difference in the process, or were you
It was
eating
both. It
both?
was both, and it was happening at different times. So I think what I first did was try to eat more carbs. And then I tried to eat some foods that were really scary to me. And then I started doing a mixture of the both of them. But two big things for me. One was that when I would eat a food that was particularly scary, like my scariest one was industrial oils in things. And I didn't know, that was like a big paleo thing, like that's the thing that's ruining all of our health. And actually, I genuinely believe that it is really bad for you. Like I
Yeah.
really do. But it was therapeutic for me and important for me to be able to eat it.
And you didn't die.
And I didn't die and it was fine. And I was going to be fine, even if it was bad for me to be able to eat it and be like, I'm fine. I love myself. I want to be able to just live. And that health, perfect health, is not the holy grail. Like we think that health is so tied to morality in our brains and it can get really dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And to try to untie those two things to be like, I am worthy and fine, and I've eaten something that's probably really bad for me, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was really important. So I would consider those scary foods like medicine for my mind, and I would eat them. And the more I ate them, the less anxious thoughts I would have when I was eating them. And so much so that now I'll be like, oh, these chips are probably really bad for me. And if I want them, I'll eat them. And if I don't want them, I won't eat them. And it's just not a big deal.
Yeah.
And like, I still favor the healthy versions of things, like, the like Whole Foods organic versions of the cookies or whatever. Like that's what I would choose if I ran the world, and that's what everyone would have access to. But I don't run the world, and it's not use, you know, there's no use being afraid of the things that aren't optimal. Like that's just not a way to live. So actively desensitizing myself to those things is really important. And the other frontier that I reached was I was so afraid of carbs and amounts of carbs that I still was kind of conservative. Like I was eating more than I was before, but I was still afraid to like really go for it. And I was afraid what would happen to my health. And by the way, disclaimer, my health is better now than it ever was
I was
before.
just gonna ask.
I still totally have hormonal craziness, and I think it's pretty much environmental and stress related. I really believe that that is where it stems from for the most part for me and most women with hormonal issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that um, that's why energy therapies um, and diet therapies and self-love therapies are like all work together, but I still don't believe in restrictive diet therapies. I really, really don't. Um, but so that's still like a work in progress for me, honestly, but it's not the be all end all for me anymore, which is really liberating. That I'm like, I'm fine now. Like I have crazy hormones and my cycle is sometimes really great. And I try to figure out maybe what I did. And sometimes it's really wacky. And I'm like wondering what it's tied to or if it's tied to anything at all. And how emotional is it? How stress related is it? What are things in my environment that I can't change that I just have to accept? What are supplements that maybe can help me mitigate some environmental things that are,
Yeah.
completely unavoidable? And that is the sane way for me to go about health. And it took me a long time to get there. And it took a lot of misery in order to realize that that's not the answer for me. And anytime anyone recommends cutting out something or some sort of diet tweak, I don't do it.
Good.
I just
Yeah.
don't do it. And sometimes I add things, like I'll add good foods that are supposed to be really good for you. I never take out anymore.
Oh,
And
that's great. I like that.
I actually tried in January. I was like, I'm going to do 2 weeks gluten free and see if it heals my hormones. And one day in, I was like, nope, I am not even playing with this fire. Like
Good.
I knew that it was going to spiral. I thought that I was so healed that I could do that.
Yeah.
And it turns out I'm not. Like that was super triggering for me. And I eat healthier when I can eat whatever I want. Like that's what I've learned.
Yeah.
As soon as I start to think that I should eat certain foods, I kind of start rebelling. Even now, even still.
It's fascinating. There's two things there that from what you just said that I wanted to pick up on, and one is going back to the morality around health, and I think that religion is so untrendy right now, organized religion,
Yeah,
yet health is so trendy that
it's the
health
new
is
religion.
becoming this like very polarizing new religion in our society, which is just like fascinating. And then the other thing, like when it comes to like all the things that we restrict, this is just like not a question, it's just like they say a good interview is like therapy for both people. So I feel like
Yes.
for me this is coming up, and I just realized that like I had an experience too where I was like we were saying, we've tried it all, and I was like vegetarian, which turned to vegan, which turned to raw vegan, which turned to like
Hmm.
all whatever, and then like paleo, same thing on the other scale. And so I was just like, until it's like nothing, you can eat nothing because there's
Right.
something out there where it's
Right.
everything is bad,
Exactly.
everything is kale is bad, sugar is bad, it's all bad.
Right. Right.
So anyways, but I slowly through okay, I was gonna eat fruit again. Then the paleo was like, okay, fat is great, so fat is good
Mm.
again. But the one last thing for me too was carbs. And then I randomly started following this person who was more of the variety of like the high carb, low fat
Mm.
vegan type of a thing.
Hmm.
And it was actually really good for me because I was so like eating fat from the paleo side, and then I paired that with her, so it was just like perfect. Like it was
Right.
just like goofy, like neither of them would think that they would like totally clash, but like for me it worked because it
Yeah.
legalized all food groups.
Everything.
Yeah,
That's what I say
it was just
sometimes. I'm
pretty
like,
funny.
okay, so you can go through every diet and make a list of all the foods that's not allowed. And literally, that means you can't eat anything because there is a diet that thinks
Yeah,
that every food is bad for you.
yeah.
Even kale, yeah, like,
A
the
friend just
whatever.
sent me an article about like the heavy metals in kale, and she's like, what am I gonna eat? And yeah, so even
Yeah.
kale.
Yeah, even kale. But you can also do it just like you did and take all
Yeah,
of the foods
all the
that
good
are
things.
recommended on every diet
Yeah,
and put them into your own diet. And it
yeah,
means that every food is good for you.
yeah.
So I I well, I had to do that with carbs too, actually. Um, a big shift happened for me when I realized, like months and months and months into my, even maybe even a year into my um, fuck it diet, essentially, that I was living my life trying to eat the smallest amount possible, and I was doing it constantly. And when I realized that I wasn't letting myself finish a bowl of rice or pasta or have a big serving of something because I was afraid that it wasn't healthy and I was afraid of what it would do to my weight and my health, I that was like a big realization for me because I was petrified of it. So I had to go there and I started eating way bigger meals, meals that were like, like if I was a calorie counter at the time, which I was in high school, I would have been like, this is my allotment for like the day. But
Yeah.
I was eating it for a meal and finding that I like finally felt normal. I finally felt like satiated for a long time. I've stopped craving caffeine as much. I stopped craving chocolate as much. I stopped craving, a lot of things, though I still had cravings because cravings are a natural part of the way to live your life. But it normalized a lot of my eating because I finally was allowing myself to actually get full, which I never allowed before.
Yeah. It's just so fascinating that you really what you wanted all the diets to achieve, like you said, to like food to be a non-issue,
Hmm.
happened when you just ate normally,
I
which is
know. I
pretty cool.
know. Finally.
Yeah.
Finally. The other thing is that I thought I was obsessed with food. Like I thought that food was my passion. I had this food blog. I thought that I was maybe going to
Oh
become a
yeah.
food writer. And I healed all my food stuff and I realized that I honestly couldn't care less about food.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing. My friend Christy Harrison, who I have to introduce you to, by the way, we'll talk about that in a
Please.
minute.
Yeah.
But her and I had a conversation. She hosts this really really rad podcast called Food Psych, and I don't know if you're
Amazing.
familiar with the Minnesota starvation experiment. But
Yes.
the most fascinating part to me of, well, there's a lot, but one of the most fascinating parts about that to me was that the men in that experiment, and for people listening, I forgot there are people listening because we've been recording for so long, but for people listening, I've talked about it before, but basically it was in the 50s, 40s, 50s, and this experiment would never be very top line. I'm just giving this fast, but this experiment would never be allowed today because it was like a human experiment. But they starved these men, and for a certain period of time, and then studied them and what happened when they lowered their calories to like very very low calories, and then for a while they lost a ton of weight and then they amped them up, and all these crazy things happened, psychologically and physically. But one of the psychological things was that they became obsessed with food, and since they were so young, they were like college age, and their
Mm,
careers were in this malleable place, that many of them decided to have careers as chefs, as nutritionists, as trainers, as like
mm,
people in the food world. And I'm seeing that so much now, where girls who are becoming orthorexic, whatever, 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 are changing the course of their life to become food bloggers or chefs or nutritionists or holistic health coaches or whatever, whatever, because they, it can just, that's what their passion is, because that's all they're focusing on, and their
yeah,
careers are in this malleable place. So it's
that's
easier now with the internet.
amazing.
Yeah, so it's
That's
fascinating.
amazing. Yeah, I didn't realize that with the Minnesota starvation experiment that happened too, but it makes so much sense because
Yeah,
you become fixated. Like you're
you're
biologically
obsessed. Yeah,
fixated to
search
think
for food.
about food. Yeah, it's like a way of survival, but then we fight that with more dieting and we feel like we're broken and it just never ever ever ends until you step out of that cycle.
Yeah, yeah. Craziness. So, okay, so now I want to switch gears, if you're still awake, and
Yeah.
and just talk about how your relationship with food affected your art. And can you just talk a little bit about how, where you are with that now, with your acting and your performing and your writing and music, and how healing this relationship has been a muse or has changed? Just
Yeah.
go.
So um, as I said before, I saw my entire worth and my artistic worth through weight. And when I quit acting, I had the epiphany that you kind of talked about earlier about, well, if there were more actors of every size and every look, then it would positively affect the world because people wouldn't feel like they had to be this certain way. And it would help. The fact that I think that I can't be an actor because I don't look a certain way is crazy, because that's denying my humanity. If the idea of acting is to portray a human and I can't portray a human unless I'm thin, like that's
Yeah.
denying my existence.
And you're contributing to the problem, not the solution with that.
Exactly. And so I had this thought. I was like, you know what I'm going to be? I'm going to be an activist for actors. So they believe that they can be any size that they want. And I will write about it and I'll interview them. And then I was like, oh, I guess it would be more powerful if I actually did it alongside them and didn't just say like, you should be an actor at any weight. I'm not going to do it, but you should do it.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, okay. I guess that means that I will go back into acting um, once I heal this food stuff. So I have to pee so
Oh my
badly.
gosh,
Can I
yeah.
run?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Hold on.
I'm
I'll
sorry
be
we went so
Yeah,
long.
it's totally great. This is an awesome conversation. I will be right
Okay,
back.
yeah.
Hold on. So I just went to the bathroom. She just paused it. So I'm going to I was talking about me thinking that I was going to be an activist for actors to be any size, but then I realized that that was kind of a cop out and I should do it myself. So I decided that I was going to go back into it if I wanted to, and I felt like it after I healed all the food body stuff. So that was always in the back of my mind. But I started doing The Artist's Way, which is a book. It's a book about creativity. Um, it's amazing. I recommend it to anybody and everybody. Have you read it?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. I
Oh,
do my
it's
morning pages.
life changing. It is
Hmm.
so life changing. And that is the reason that I have the Fuck It Diet and that I create the Fuck It Diet, is that this book gave me permission to speak, it was the perfect thing to read as I was trying to find my self-worth that was separate from weight.
Yes,
It was the
me too.
perfect thing to read. Did you do it at the same time too?
Yeah,
Or was,
yeah.
yeah, it like, honestly, it was so necessary. I actually don't know how I would have gotten through the journey without that extra. It's like a spiritual connection to yourself, to your own creative desires, to your own voice.
Yeah.
And I think that that is such an essential part of this recovery, is figuring out who you are, what you care about, what your passions are, what you have to say that is not dictated by weight and dieting.
Yeah, because I think that becomes your hobby. And so you have
Yeah.
to find like a new hobby that you're into. And then also
Yeah.
like something that is your worth. So, like, for me, whenever I'm having a bad body image day or moment or week, whatever, like, the only thing that can get me out of it is doing something creative. So
Yeah.
writing about, like, using my life and that experience as my muse and like making art about it, or like using somebody else's art about it, or just art
Yeah.
about something else, like fangirling over, like a song that, even if it's like about a breakup, but like somebody else's
Yeah.
art over, or my own art, is the only way that I can feel okay about what I'm going through.
It kind of jolts you into this soul plane, you know?
Yeah.
It gets you out of your head, it gets you out of judging yourself for these pointless, pointless things, weight and looks that we think are the world in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It jolts you out of it and gets you into this place of beauty, like true beauty, inner beauty. That's what a song is. It's and the other thing that my mom gives me a hard time about. She's she has good intentions, but she is quite a recovery adversary. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she is like, she makes it hard. She's made it hard, but she's also made me stick to it even harder, and it has benefited her. But she plays devil's advocate on everything, and she's like, so what's so bad about beauty? Like, isn't beauty something that we want and are attracted to and desire and isn't it healthy to be around beauty, to care about beauty? And the answer to that is, yeah, like beauty is wonderful, but it's also extremely, extremely subjective. And what we
Out of our
consider,
control too.
yeah, out of our control. If we're going to talk about natural beauty, like the beauty of nature, yeah, that's amazing. But and it's healing, and making your space beautiful is healing. But when you are judging your own beauty and thinking that it's never good enough, that's not the same thing. Like that's detrimental. That's detrimental to your soul. What is soul affirming is trying to express yourself. So if the way you want to dress and the way you want to do your hair and your makeup is an expression of your inner life, that is when it's healthy and, enhancing.
Yeah.
But that's not how most of us go about looking at, the way we present ourselves. We're not normally in that space, but getting to that place of self-expression and creation paves the way for more of
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
life.
and I think too, and I've said this many, many times, it's about making your life as a whole really beautiful, not just your
Mhm.
body. And like,
Exactly.
my another thing when I'm having a bad body image moment is like, I I don't have to look at it, I'm like, if I can just like, as silly as that sounds, but like, even if it's just like, oh, my hair is really frizzy today and it's
Hmm.
humid, and it's like, oh well, I get to, like, I'm inside of these eyes, and my
Hmm.
eyes get to like see the world, and like, that's not my problem,
Right.
and it can kind of just like
Right.
take it out of myself of like, oh, like, all right, I get to see the beauty in everything else, and I don't know, it
Yeah,
helps me.
yeah, that's actually kind of a really amazing way to look at it. I had this thing, um, this was like a shift moment for me when I was walking up the subway stairs and I was wearing a skirt and I was like, oh man, everyone's able to see up my skirt. Like, oh, like that's unacceptable. Like, I don't want the men behind me to be able to like see up my skirt. And then I just had this voice that said back to me, like, and who cares? Like, it doesn't change anything if anybody sees up my skirt. It doesn't matter. And it feels like the end of the world, like the most embarrassing and revealing and horrible, horrible thing in the world for somebody to like, but it doesn't matter. And then that spills over to like, it doesn't matter what people see and what people think. It
Yeah.
it cannot affect me. It feels like it can affect me if I feel like the way I look is who I am.
Mm. This conversation is just like so good. I'm obsessed with it. So you do this amazing one woman show that I watched a bunch of YouTube clips of and became obsessed with. That was like my first
Oh,
window into you, and it's called
oh,
Possible Memoir Titles. Could you
yes.
tell us how that came to be? Tell us
Yeah.
about what it was like to perform it, and yeah, because it's way
Yes.
cool.
Okay, so we can tie this back even. When I took a year off of acting and I worked in an office and I
What
just
did
wanted
you
to
do?
be, I worked for an arts PR firm. I just did admin. I was like a glorified secretary. It was lame. It was not fun, but it was so necessary. I needed that year so badly. And it taught me pretty quickly that being in the arts and being a creative person is a gift. Like it is so much better than sitting in an office doing something you don't care about at all. So that was really important for me to learn acting wise because I was worried that maybe I didn't care enough about it and I didn't know whether I cared enough to do it. But I was so bored and I started listening to music again. I started listening to musical theater again that I hadn't for a while because I was just so over it and exhausted. And um, I started saying like I want to do a cabaret. Like I would make these playlists and I would like go for walks and like imagine that I was doing my cabaret and I would like lip sync on the street and I'm sure I looked very crazy. But I was so like excited about just the fantasy of doing a cabaret. One day I'm going to do a cabaret. So then I quit that job. I went to do a show in Philadelphia. I do a lot of theater in Philadelphia because I'm from Philadelphia. And I was a part of this amazing artistic community in Philadelphia, the most amazing, wonderful people. It was like the time of my life. It was so, so fun. And I became really close to um, this music director, a friend of mine, Amanda Morton, and I told her I want to do a cabaret, and she was like, "I will totally do one with you. Let's do it." So it was just kind of like this baby desire. I had no idea that it would become something that I was good at. I didn't know that it was going to become something that would morph. I didn't know that I didn't even think of it as writing a show. I was like, I want to sing. I want to sing these songs. She chose most of the songs. Like I wasn't even choosing the songs. I just wanted to sing them. Um, and then I felt like I needed a a way to string it all together. So I was writing this. I wrote a blog post called Possible Memoir Titles, and it was like I listed like 5 memoir titles, and it was I've always loved comedic essays, writing them, reading them. I've always loved writing memoir-like essays that were funny to me. That's always been something that I've loved doing. I've always just done it as a hobby. In fact, when I was writing that food blog, I was terrible at writing about food. I didn't write about food at all. I would write about like what happened before and after I ate the food. And that was what was fun to me. Like writing in that way it makes me feel so alive and so happy. Um, and my friend actually was like, you should like make the show something similar to the possible memoir titles thing. Like that's your humor. Like do something like that. And I was like, you know what? I'll just make the whole show. So I truly was just trying to get through the show. I just wanted it to be watchable. I just wanted it to be entertaining to me and them. And I just wanted it to be like fun. And I did the show and it went over so well. And it was like the most fun, exciting thing I've ever done that I've been doing it ever since and growing it and changing it and adding my songs and being able to do it without a band. And I just got a residency over the summer. I was paid to work on it in Philadelphia. And so it's like, it's you know how they say, like, just start?
Yeah.
Like, don't judge it. That's a big part of the artist way too. Like,
Hmm.
don't judge the work, just do it. You cannot worry about it being perfect. You cannot control what the outcome is going to be. You just have to do it. That's all I was doing. I was like, I just want to like sing. And then it became this different thing. And it became this like sort of stand up with a ukulele now is
Yeah.
essentially what it is under the premise of titling my future memoir. And it is so fun. And doing that has again opened up this world of like, wow, like I made something and it's not
So
perfect
cool.
and it's never going to be perfect and it's flawed. And there are times when I do it and I feel horrible about it. And there are times when I do it and I'm like, I am on a high, like I'm the queen of the world. Like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's kind of a lesson in just doing it.
Yeah.
And some things fall flat and some things are not funny and some things go so well and it's like a learning process. And I now call myself a comedian more than I ever let myself before. But the funny thing is, I want to point out it depends so much on who I'm talking to and what I'm talking about and who my audience is. I struggle so much. And maybe I don't need to struggle or worry about it at all, but I struggle so much trying to marry the two voices of inspirational anti-diet and the honest account of what happened to me and what I used to think and what I think now and trying to empower people and my voice that I use writing comedic essays and writing that show.
Amazing.
I do not know how to marry them and I'm trying to like I'm trying
I
to
think you do it beautifully all the time.
oh
But I mean,
thank
I'm your
you.
biggest fan, so
Oh, you're so
whatever.
nice. You are so, so nice. I I think they used to be a little bit more disparate. Like I think they used to be even more different, but I've actively been trying to write a little bit more in the casual absurd style on the fuck it diet and and bring a little bit more body image stuff into my personal
Yeah.
um, comedic work. And that was what this residency was for. Like when I applied to it, I said, so my show right now is really, really surface level. It's really absurd, it's really fun, it's really dumb. Um, and yet when I first did it, this woman came up to me afterwards and she said, what you're doing for women is so important. And I was like, what? I was just trying to get through that. I was just
And
trying
get
to like have,
laughs.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yet I was so mad that I was like doing the show all about boys and I was like frustrated about that. So I was calling out all these true things and things that I was really frustrated about that are women and feminist, topics. And I applied to this residency and I said, what I want to do is not only bring my songs into it, but I want to add some weight to it and not I didn't mean weight, body weight, though that's exactly what I did add into it. But I wanted to add in, you know, some real things. I wanted to speak truthfully in the show in a way that didn't stay there, that was able to balance both sides. And I think I had help. I had a collaborator, my good friend Rachel Camp. She's brilliant. She's an actor in Philly, and she's a really good friend. So she knows me so well, and she knows the show so well. She knows the Fuck It Diet so well, and she knows my comedy so well that she was like the perfect outside eye to help me try to marry the two you know, in a way that would be like a good arc for a show. So it's still a work in progress, but that's always my goal. Like right now I'm writing a book, hopefully to be called The Fuck It Diet, but that's a lot of essays about what I experienced, peppered with little lessons and little like weird um recipes, not like food recipes, but like take like mag magazine articles and like well like like as if life were able to have recipes for disaster essentially.
Oh, that's fabulous.
That is my current uh
Project.
project, very slow in the making. I just started it and I'm still trying to figure out like what the heck, what's my angle here, because I write about body image and I write about why you shouldn't diet, but I'm honestly not that good with the scientific facts. Like, I feel like I get really jumbled. I get really nervous that I'm not going to say them correctly. I feel like that's not where my brain lives. I feel like I like to reference them and then link to them
Yeah.
or tell people to read certain books that helped me. And then what I like to write about is the way we look at ourselves and the way we see ourselves and the fear of taking that leap. So like that's where my
And
um,
that's,
work lies.
yeah. And I think that's perfect because, like, for me, I learn through stories, and I think most people learn through stories. And I think that's why I found your show so relatable, is not just because of the, obviously, it's entertaining and you're so talented. You have a beautiful voice and you play the ukulele amazing, which I want to hear about in a second, but because I'm learning to play the ukulele.
Oh, yay.
But yeah, I mean, I think like I feel like Pete Holmes right now, like interviewing a comedian, like he says this thing where like you play the audience like an instrument when he's doing his stand up,
Mm.
and you really like. And I teach yoga, so like I kind of do that like when I'm teaching a class. I
Yeah,
pretend it's
it's
like the Katie
similar.
show basically,
Yeah,
and
it's
I like am
similar.
DJing and dancing and like making people do stuff like Simon Says
Hmm.
and yeah, and then telling stories because I think people learn through stories. So that's what you're able to do in your show. You're like able to collage all these different sides of you together, and then like picking up on the audience and like seeing it, and it's just it's so cool. I have to see it live someday. But I mean, I think the it's what they say about like comedy and tragedy. It's like the same
Mm.
thing, right? And
Yeah.
so like for you, I think it's when you're real, you you're able to just be your authentic true self. And like I've heard Beyonce talks about this where like she had that like stage persona Sasha Fierce,
Mm.
and somebody asked her in an interview like where is Sasha Fierce now? And she was like, well, at this point in my career, like Sasha Fierce, Beyonce, whatever, like they're all me because
Right.
there's a level of authenticity that like just comes out after a while,
Right.
even if you don't have it. And like I think as you grow, and this is art, not that you need to grow, like you're amazing, but like it's all like come together in this beautiful tapestry that is your show, your book, your life. And I just relate so much to the personal essay thing. Like that's something like that has been the most healing thing for me on
Hmm.
this whole journey is like I was reading The Artist's Way and Eat, Pray, Love actually really helped me
Mm. Oh, yeah.
um, because I just started to write personal essays just like Elizabeth. Well, I can't even say just like Elizabeth Gilbert. I mean, I think she's like the most brilliant writer ever.
She's
But
so
like,
great.
yeah. But I mean, I was trying, and I was just writing in my authentic voice, telling my stories, and then not from a point of like I hope this gets published or I'm going to turn this into a blog post, but maybe and maybe who knows,
Yeah.
maybe it will be a book or a memoir or like a
Yeah.
Lena Dunham type tell all, or maybe it turns into like a movie like Frances Ha where everyone's really uncomfortable by my musings in my life as I go through
Yeah.
it. And then there is some, like you said, like as I maybe I do get to by the end to this other side where like things are more healed, and there are lessons in that because I think everybody's story is a hero or heroine's journey of some sort. And like it just
Yeah.
helped me feel better about myself and my body when I could go through life looking at life as my muse and life as my inspiration. And then that way,
Yeah.
like it became my life became, when something bad happened, I was like, there's some material. I'm going to be able to work this out on the page,
Yeah, that's what
um,
it is. It's
and it
material.
helps.
Yeah, it's so, so healing. So I encourage everyone to to read The Artist's Way, really. But what I want to do is I have this 6-month program right now, but I want to have a creative recovery program.
Yeah.
Like, I think for everyone, but especially for eating disorders and disordered eating
Because you
and
need that new
obsessive
hobby,
dieting,
so it's
you
perfect.
need it. And I think it really, so many people who turn on themselves are creatives that are stifling
Yes.
their voice. And I
Yeah.
think on so many levels, it's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly necessary part of the healing process.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, 1000%. Like, everyone who's listening might already know this, but I'll just tell you super quick. Like, I was really into theater and all of like that when I was younger. And then when I got to college, I was like, oh, I'll study broadcast journalism. Like, that's sort of like performing, but,
Mm-hmm.
not really.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, and so I stifled that for so long. And then, now after on my healing journey, I decided to take improv classes and write
Mm-hmm.
more and like use that muscle that like clearly was a part of my life, but I just didn't know how to express it, and so I just controlled my weight instead.
Yeah. Because it feels easier to do that. That's the biggest thing, is that it feels easy for us to, well, if I fix my weight, then I'll fix my life, as opposed to actually just
Fixing
getting
the life,
fixing
yeah.
the life, getting messy,
Yeah,
getting
because
messy in
fixing
there.
the weight is everywhere in society, and it's just all over the place. And yeah, oh my goodness. Okay, this has been amazing, but I can't. I want to let you go so much because you've taken up so much of your night. But I have to end with some quick fire questions.
Awesome.
Okay, so just say like the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
So, what are some of the first things you do when you wake up in the morning? Maybe like the first three things you do, and the last three things you do before you go to sleep at night.
Okay, the first three things I do in the morning are, if it's a good day, I I plan to write my morning pages. That's like in the first three things I do, but I go and I get myself coffee. I normally make it. I've kind of been all over the place right now, living everywhere, traveling a lot, so I don't really have a routine right now, but I get myself coffee, except I just switched to decaf, which is really throwing me for a loop. So my morning routine might be very different soon, but it has been coffee. Right now it's decaf coffee. And I get my morning pages and I do them. And if I don't do that, I go on my computer and tell myself that I'm going to do work, but then I get caught in Facebook. And the last three things I do before I go to bed are, um, oh my God, I am so bad at going to bed. I, this is not an easy question to answer. I get in bed before I go to bed. I probably check my phone too many times. I This is a really hard question. Three things I do before I go to bed. Oh, I have magnesium spray that I take. I like can't fall asleep if I don't take magnesium. And I started doing magnesium spray because magnesium um pills are, like make your like give you
Give you
diarrhea.
the shits.
So magnesium, I check my phone. I procrastinate going to bed. It's so bad. It's terrible. I wish I had all these really spiritual things that I could tell you, but
No, it's okay.
I
This is perfect. This is real.
I and what else do I do? I don't even know.
And then you sleep.
I sleep, but then I actually get out of bed sometimes and like start playing music. Like I'm like, I'm gonna go to bed, but I like bring my ukulele into bed, or I like get out and like try to play something on the piano. And then I spend way too long doing that. It's another way of procrastinating going to bed. I don't know what I'm so afraid of going to bed, but I procrastinated. So
I
those
think
are the
that's a
last
sign that you like your life when you don't want to go to bed and you like don't want the day to be over. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna. That's so cool.
Maybe,
I need
maybe.
to play my ukulele before bed.
Yeah, you should.
um. Okay, so what are you doing in your life that you're afraid of, but you're doing anyways, that you're challenging yourself with now?
Oh my God. I'm really afraid to two things. I'm afraid to write this bucket diet book and have it be um, a book about me. That's kind of weird to me and exciting and scary. And I'm also afraid to go back to New York and keep doing the acting audition thing. Like I know I'm going to do it and I'm at the beach right now, but it's daunting and overwhelming, but I'm going to do it because I have to and I want to.
Yay! And we need you because you're talented and amazing.
Oh.
Okay, this one's easier. Favorite color?
Green.
Favorite part you've ever played acting?
Doing in Sunday in the Park with George at the Art and Theater Company, I was a Celeste. There are these two weird comedic
Yeah.
characters called Celeste 1 and Celeste 2, and I was Celeste 2, and it was so fun. It was like a mixture of everything, like a beautiful show, a funny part. It was just awesome. It was so fun.
Oh, so cool. Favorite day of the week?
Huh. I feel like all my days are the same now. Um,
All of them.
Maybe even like Monday.
Cool. Favorite hour of the day?
I like 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it's good. Favorite vegetable?
Um, I used to hate carrots and I like them so much now. But my favorite vegetable is probably this is so hard. I don't even know. I can only think of vegetables that I don't like. Um, Favorite
I should have
vegetable.
asked
Oh,
that.
mushrooms. I love
Oh, those
mushrooms.
are really good. Favorite fruit?
Papaya.
Ooh, yum. Um, what is your favorite way to relax?
I have now I do this thing. You heard me say this in the other
I
podcast,
loved it.
but
I was hoping you'd say it.
I'm doing this energy program. It's her name is Michelle Lowbridge and she's amazing. I'll send you her link
Cool, yeah.
just for your sake and also if you want to put it here.
Yeah, I will.
But she is a kinesiologist and she does these energy corrections on you remotely and there's a group and she does weekly group corrections and her it sounds really woo woo and maybe it is but I love her. I
No,
feel like she's
I just had a session with someone else who must do something similar. It was called like theta healing or whatever.
oh
Literally
neat.
like 2 days
That's,
ago. And so
that's
it's so funny you brought that up.
so cool.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah.
No, God, I want to hear about that too. But she says that you have to the self-care that you have to do to process these energetic corrections and let your energy system realign is you have to drink a lot of water and you have to lie down on your back for 10 minutes every day and doing nothing. You can't have any distractions. And really what it is a really simple meditation because all I'm doing is just letting my mind go and then I eventually kind of calm down and I have like breakthroughs there that I like meditative breakthroughs and I'm not even trying to do anything. I'm just not allowed to do anything else. And I call it a lie down.
I love
And
that. It's
and
a
I
nice
was
term.
telling, I was like, I do a 10-minute lie down and I don't really, I can't do sitting meditations. I get really antsy, but I can do them pretty well when I'm lying down. So that is my best way to relax right now. And I do it every day and it's so simple. There's nothing to it. I don't have to plan or do anything. I just lie down for 10 minutes.
When you lie down, what if you get like creative ideas or thoughts? You just let them come and you think about them if you want to, and then let them go.
Get a little nervous sometimes that they're going to go. So like if I think it's something that might depending on how relaxed I am,
Hmm.
if I think I'm going to forget about it, I get my phone and I write it down
Yeah,
and depending on how much time I have, I'll either restart the 10 minutes or I'll just keep going from there.
gotcha. Okay, yeah, that was my question about it. So, best thing you've eaten in the last week?
Oh, my mom, when she was here at the beach, she's now gone, but I am so bad at cooking for myself these days. I literally eat whatever's around or just quinoa. I,
Me
and
too.
I eat out a lot. Like I eat delicious things out, but I never cook for myself. And she cooked salmon and beets with onions and a lot of butter on both of those things and baked potatoes with butter. It was like the most simple, amazing meal and it was home cooked and it was so good.
With love. That's amazing.
With love, yeah.
Favorite thing to have for breakfast?
Um, I really like having yogurt with berries and almond butter in it. It's so weird. It's so strange to put almond butter in yogurt, but it is delicious.
Almond butter on anything would be delicious in my
So
book.
good. It's
So,
so
okay, little scenario for you, food related. It's 8 p.m., you've had a long day, you're starving, you come home. What do you eat slash make slash go pick up? What do you do?
um Depending on how hungry I am and how quickly I need to eat, I eat a lot of cheese and crackers. I also I ordered these amazing beef tacos with corn tortillas from this restaurant that's close to me. I spend so much money on these beef tacos. They're amazing. They're like really good. Um, and I eat them all the time. But like quickest thing that I eat is cheese and crackers, or like I used to eat a lot of avocado on toast.
Oh yeah,
Not-
it's like my
It's
thing.
just so easy to
So
make,
good.
and with salt, it's just so
Yeah.
good. On like sourdough,
A
like
little lemon on top is like
yeah,
so
yeah.
good.
Those are my quick meals. Did that answer your
Yeah,
question?
no, that's amazing. Okay, if you could have a superhero power for a day, what would it be?
Flying, definitely.
Ooh, quick, you knew that one. Favorite vacation you've ever taken?
Oh, I went to Vancouver with my family 4 years ago. We flew there, spent a couple days there, and then we took a train up and through the Rocky Mountains, the Canadian Rocky Mountains, and it was so amazing. It was in July, but it was like cold and beautiful, and the mountains were gorgeous, and it was just like I think the Pacific Northwest is where a little piece of my soul is, and I like got to reunite with it
Oh my
then.
gosh, that's amazing. Um, what is your favorite musical?
I used to say Parade, and then I was in Parade, and for some reason it doesn't feel like my favorite musical anymore, even though I love it so much. That's a musical by Jason Robert Brown. Um, that's such a hard question. Um, I don't know the answer, but I do know what it's okay. It's either My Fair Lady or um, She Loves Me. And it's possible that I'm just saying those because I want to be in both of those.
You will. I can't wait to watch you be in them. That's amazing. Favorite movie?
Amelie,
Oh, it's so good. Favorite book?
Harry Potter.
Favorite song?
Um, I think it changes all the time. It used to be Jason Mraz's "You and I Both."
Oh, I love that song. I
I
love
love.
that whole first album of
I
his.
know it's
Don't
really
Forget
good.
About It.
Um, a song by um either a song by Andrew Bird. I can't actually choose the
It's so
song.
good.
Or Punch Brothers. I'm so into the Punch Brothers.
I don't know the Punch Brothers.
They're like progressive bluegrass. They are so amazing. It's the same singer and mandolinist from Nickel Creek.
Huh. I'll have to check them out.
They're really good.
What's it called again?
Punch
Okay,
Brothers.
I'm going to look it up tonight. Cool. All right. Well, as you know, the name of this podcast, the name of my blog is The Wellness Wonderland. So when I offer that term to you, Caroline, to live in a wellness wonderland, what comes up? What does that mean to you?
Hmm. Oh, okay. It would be a world where, like I said earlier, people are raised to value themselves and their voice and what they have to say and their bodies and raised to love themselves. I also think that this world, if I was able to control the wellness wonderland, we would get back to like real farming and real food preparation, and everything would be rich and nutrient dense, and it would not be about calories or anything, but it would just be real delicious food that was good for us and delicious, and it would be more expensive, especially meat. I think the good meat would be expensive, but it should be because it's a life and it's like pretty nourishing. So my utopia would include a lot of really, really, really good real food. Um, but but body image would be like a thing of the past.
Yes. Oh, I want to live
It
there.
would be like, remember when women like thought they had to be skinny in
Yes.
order to like be important?
I want to cry. cry because I want to live there.
I know.
All right. Well, this has been amazing, long, deep, beautiful. There's a billion more things I could ask you, and
We'll
talked
do it
for,
again. We'll talk
so
again.
many hours. So
We'll
thank
talk
you
again.
so much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for listening. You made it all the way to the end. I'll be back next week, but until then, let's stay inspired and keep this conversation going. So tweet at me at Katie Dalebout and our guest with your aha moments from this conversation. And like the Wellness Wonderland on Facebook, so we can all hang out there and discuss how inspired we are and how we'll apply it in our daily lives. And never miss another episode or post from me by signing up for email updates on thewellnesswonderland.com. See you back in Wonderland.